Her best friend watched the whole thing happen and could do nothing but scream. 9-year-old Michaela Garecht had gone back for a scooter, her friend's scooter, which had been moved. Sometime in the few minutes, the two girls were inside a corner market buying candy and soda. As Michaela bent down to grab it, a man got out of a parked car, seized her, and forced her, screaming, into the front seat. He drove away. Her friend ran back into the store, screaming for help. That was the last anyone saw of Michaela Garecht for 32 years. And when an answer finally came, it came from a fingerprint that had been sitting in an evidence file since the day she vanished, waiting for a comparison no one had known to make. This is her story. This is Unsolved and Unforgotten. Tonight's case is one of the defining child abduction stories of the San Francisco Bay Area, a case that, unlike many we've covered, now has a named, charged suspect, awaiting a trial that has still not concluded as of this recording. Everything in this episode is drawn from police statements, court filings, and verified reporting through 2026. Michaela Joy Garecht was born on January the 24th, 1979, in Oakland, California. By the fall of 1988, she was 9 years old, living in Hayward, a city in Alameda County on the eastern shore of the San Francisco Bay, with her mother, Sharon Murch, and her father, Rod Garecht. Saturday, November the 19th, 1988. The Saturday before Thanksgiving began as an entirely unremarkable morning. Michaela and a close friend decided to ride their scooters to a neighborhood market called the Rainbow Market, located on Mission Boulevard, to buy snacks. According to testimony later given in court, the two girls had $5 between them, which they spent on Mountain Dew, Laffy Taffy, and beef jerky. They left their scooters outside the store while they shopped, as children in the neighborhood commonly did. It was an ordinary Saturday morning errand, the kind repeated by children across the country every weekend, without incident, for generations. This time was different. When Michaela and her friend came out of the market, they noticed that one of the scooters, Michaela's friends, had been moved. It was no longer where they had left it. Instead, it had been repositioned near a parked car in a different part of the lot. Michaela walked over to retrieve it. As she bent down to pick up the scooter, a man got out of the parked car, grabbed her, and forced her into the front seat as she screamed. He then drove away with her inside the vehicle. Michaela's friend witnessed the entire abduction. She ran back into the market, screaming for help. Store employees and customers responded immediately, and police were called within minutes. It was, by any measure, about as fast a response as any missing child case of that era could hope for, and it still was not fast enough to catch the vehicle. Within 24 hours, sketches of the suspected abductor, based on witness descriptions, were distributed alongside missing person flyers throughout the San Francisco Bay Area. Witnesses described the man as young, between 18 and 24 years old, of slender build, approximately 6 feet tall, weighing around 180 pounds, with dirty blonde, shoulder-length hair and visible acne. His getaway vehicle was described as an older model, full-sized 4-door sedan, possibly gold or tan in color, with visible damage to the front bumper. Search efforts, coordinated between Hayward police and volunteers throughout the community, proved fruitless. Michaela was not found that day, that week, or for the next 32 years. Michaela's abduction landed in the Bay Area, at a moment when the region and the country was already primed for exactly this kind of fear. The case joined a string of other high-profile child abduction stories from the 1980s. Etan Patz in New York in 1979, Adam Walsh in Florida in 1981, Johnny Gosch in Iowa in 1982. By the time Michaela disappeared from a supermarket parking lot in broad daylight, the country had already spent a decade absorbing the idea that a child could vanish from a place that looked, in every visible way, entirely safe. Alameda County District Attorney Nancy O'Malley would later describe the crime, in a 2020 press conference, as one that shocked not only the local Hayward community, but the entire Bay Area and the nation. Brazen, ruthless, and, in her assessment, clearly planned in advance, given how deliberately the scooter had been repositioned to draw Michaela toward the waiting car. The one piece of physical evidence recovered at the scene was a partial palm print lifted from the scooter the abductor had moved. For more than 3 decades, that print sat in the case file, compared periodically against new databases and new suspects as investigative technology slowly improved, without ever producing a match. The years that followed Michaela's disappearance followed a pattern familiar to long unsolved abduction cases. periodic, renewed appeals, occasional promising tips, and long stretches without confirmed progress. The FBI maintained an active reward $10,000 for information leading to an arrest for decades. The case was featured nationally on NBC's Dateline as part of a cold case spotlight segment in November of 2014, 26 years after Michaela vanished, reintroducing her story to a national audience that had largely lost track of it. Sharon Murch, Michaela's mother, became a long-term advocate for missing children's causes in the Bay Area, much as families in comparable cases across the country had done. For more than 3 decades, she lived with a case that had never produced an arrest, a suspect, or a body, only a sketch based on witness memory, growing less useful with each passing year, and a palm print that had never matched anyone. That changed because of an entirely different set of murders, more than 3 decades old themselves, in a neighboring city. In February of 1986, 2.5 years before Michaela's abduction, 2 young women, 18-year-old Michelle Xavier and 20-year-old Jennifer Dewey, best friends who had been stood up by their boyfriends for a planned double date, went instead to rent a movie and share a pizza. They were later found dead along Mill Creek Road in Fremont, a city bordering Hayward. Their case, too, went unsolved for decades. In 2018, DNA testing connected a man named David Misch to the Xavier and Dewey murders. Misch was, at that point, already serving a life sentence. He had been convicted of murdering 36-year-old Margaret Ball in Hayward in December of 1989, a killing he committed after beating her to death in her own home and stealing her car. He had also been previously convicted of rape and attempted rape offenses dating to the late 1970s and early 1980s. As investigators built the case, connecting Misch to the 1986 Fremont murders, detectives working the Garecht cold case began. In 2020, retesting and re-examining the physical evidence they had held for more than 30 years, including that partial palm print from Michaela's scooter. According to police, they compared it against the prints of convicted offenders whose patterns of behavior resembled the Garecht abduction. In December of 2020, they found a match. David Misch, on December the 21st, 2020, at a news conference held at Hayward City Hall, Hayward Police Chief Tony Chaplin, District Attorney Nancy O'Malley, and FBI Special Agent in Charge Craig Fair announced that David Misch had been charged with the murder of Michaela Garecht more than 32 years after she vanished. The charges included 2 special circumstances: murder committed in the course of a kidnapping and murder committed by someone previously convicted of murder. Prosecutors stated at the time that Misch could face the death penalty if convicted. Sharon Murch released a statement following the announcement that captured, with unusual clarity, the strange weight of what the news actually meant for a family that had spent 32 years without confirmation of anything. She wrote that in the year before the announcement, she had come to a place of accepting that Michaela was probably no longer alive, but that acceptance, she said, had remained wrapped up in an imagined, almost peaceful vision of her daughter at rest, rather than the specific, concrete reality of her daughter as a murdered child. It was only upon hearing the actual news, she wrote, that this more painful version of reality became real to her, and she had not yet figured out, in her words, what to do with it. Rod Garecht, Michaela's father, described the moment to reporters more simply, bittersweet. He said, "You always hope these things turn out differently than they do." Michaela's remains have never been found. Chief Chaplin stated at the press conference that the investigation remained ongoing, with locating her remains still a central goal. David Misch pleaded not guilty to the charges. In the years since his arrest, the Garecht case has moved through California's court system slowly, complicated by the fact that Misch was also separately facing trial for the 1986 Xavier and Dewey murders in Fremont, a case prosecutors and defense attorneys ultimately agreed, following a court hearing in the spring of 2023, should be tried separately from the Garecht case rather than combined into a single proceeding. It's worth being precise here about the strength and the limits of the evidence connecting Misch to Michaela's abduction. According to reporting on pretrial hearings, investigators have described their identification of Misch's palm print on the scooter as having been made, in their own characterization, essentially through direct visual comparison, a less statistically rigorous standard than modern automated fingerprint matching systems typically apply, though palm and fingerprint identification by trained examiners has long been accepted in American courts. Beyond the print, prosecutors have also cited DNA evidence connecting Misch to the case, according to some reporting on the charges, alongside witness descriptions from 1988 that were said to be broadly consistent with Misch's appearance and age at the time. Misch's defense has indicated it intends to argue that the state cannot prove Michaela is dead at all, raising the possibility, however remote, that she could still be alive somewhere, living under a different identity. It is an argument defense teams have made in other cases where a body has never been recovered, and one that places significant weight on the prosecution to establish not just an abduction, but a death without physical remains to point to. Because the two cases were severed, Misch faced trial for the Xavier and Dewey murders first. That trial began in October of 2024. On December the 19th, 2024, a jury found David Misch guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder for the killings of Michelle Xavier and Jennifer Dewey. At his sentencing hearing on January the 21st, 2025, Misch disrupted the proceedings while victims' family members were delivering their impact statements, reportedly beginning to sing 99 bottles of beer on the wall before he was removed from the people of the sea courtroom, and continuing to whistle from a holding cell nearby. Chief Assistant District Attorney Royal Roberts characterized the outburst as a blatant display of an absence of remorse. Misch was sentenced to 2 consecutive terms of 25 years to life in prison for the Fremont murder sentences added on top of the life sentence he was already serving for Margaret Ball's 1989 murder. With the Fremont case concluded, David Misch remains in custody at Santa Rita Jail in Dublin, California, awaiting trial specifically for the kidnapping and murder of Michaela Garecht. As of this recording, that trial has not yet concluded, and no verdict in her case has been reached. Even with a named, charged suspect already convicted of 3 other murders spanning the same 3-year window as Michaela's abduction, several central facts of her case remain unresolved. Michaela's body has never been found, despite what authorities describe as an ongoing effort to locate her remains. The exact circumstances of what happened to her after she was forced into that car on November the 19th, 1988, have never been publicly detailed by prosecutors in the way they eventually were for Xavier and Dewey. And because Misch's Garecht trial remains pending, no jury has yet weighed the specific evidence connecting him to her case under the higher evidentiary standard a capital murder trial requires. What is documented, and not in dispute, is this. A 9-year-old girl was abducted in broad daylight from a supermarket parking lot in front of a witness, in a case that went unsolved for more than 3 decades, until a palm print sitting quietly in an evidence file for 32 years was finally compared against the right person. As of 2026, David Misch remains in custody at Santa Rita Jail, already serving a life sentence for 1 murder and 2 consecutive 25 years to life sentences for 2 others, while awaiting his 4th trial, the one that will determine whether he is held legally responsible for Michaela Garecht's kidnapping and murder as well. Michaela's case remains listed as an active missing person case through NamUs, the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, and through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, even though authorities have publicly stated they believe she was killed shortly after her abduction. Her mother, Sharon Murch, and father, Rod Garecht, have continued to await a resolution that, 38 years after their daughter's disappearance, remains legally incomplete. If Michaela Garecht were alive today, she would be 47 years old. Michaela Garecht rode her scooter to a corner market on an ordinary Saturday morning, the kind of errand repeated by children everywhere without a second thought. A man watching that parking lot moved her friend's scooter just far enough to draw her toward his car. And in the time it took her to bend down and pick it up, her childhood ended. It took 32 years, a set of entirely separate murders in a neighboring city, and a palm print re-examined with new eyes for investigators to finally put a name to what happened that morning. It will take a jury, in a trial still pending as of this recording, to determine what, if any, legal consequence that name will carry for Michaela's own case specifically. If this episode helped you understand how a 38-year-old case can still be moving through the courts today, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to Unsolved and Unforgotten for our next case. Anyone with information related to Michaela Garecht's disappearance, including the location of her remains, is asked to contact the Hayward Police Department or their local FBI field office. She is missing. She is not forgotten.